When we look into the history of who Heraclius was, he was a man of deep piety and commitment to the Christian faith.
Right.
Now, do you think that a man of deep piety and commitment to the Christian faith is going to abandon the religion because of the conversation that is recorded in Sahih al-Bukhari 1:7? I want to ask you a question. I'm guessing you're a Muslim. You can't guess that. Right.
Why you don't get it?
So my question to you is about this. Since all of these guys didn't want to answer this question. Okay. Well, do you know about Sahih al-Bukhari, Book 1, the number 7, where Heraclius talks about...
I'm not familiar with numbers, to be honest.
No, I'm going to tell you the story. Maybe the story will remind you. So in the story in Sahih al-Bukhari, it says that a group of Muslims went to visit the Emperor Heraclius. And that they had a conversation, and that in this conversation, Emperor Heraclius decided he wanted to become a Muslim. Have you heard this story?
Yeah.
Right, so you're familiar with it?
Yeah.
Do we need to read it to make sure that we get all the facts, or are you quite familiar with the story?
Yeah, I know the story.
Okay, right. So, now here's the question, right? Here's the thing. Heraclius is the Emperor of Rome.
True.
Right, one of the major powers of the world. And as you know in the story, he invites all the elites of the Roman world to come to him and says, I've heard about this prophet, I've heard about this religion, and I'm suggesting,
I believe now maybe the story is a bit changing, isn't it?
Are you
kind of changing the
who
story.
Who changed it?
You are changing
okay,
the story.
So this is why I said let's read it. Let's read it. Let's read it. Now notice.
Is this Sahih al-Bukhari
yes, this is Sahih al-Bukhari. I'll give you the reference. You can pull it up yourself if you don't believe me.
Wallahi, I used to respect the Quran.
Yeah, what he's saying is like...
Wallahi, people used to tell me, don't...
Now notice, the Muslims that have tried to intimidate me for the last hour are now scared of me having a debate. So, do you want to have a discussion or not? Okay, so in Sahih, in Book 1, in Sahih 7, I've given the reference, look, it's here for you. So you can see I'm not making it up, right? It says in this hadith that a group of Muslims met with the Emperor Heraclius.
But
right?
What's the moral of the story? Get to it.
Right, so here's the problem.
Tell me.
I'm going to, right? In the story, Emperor Heraclius pulls in the entire elites of the Roman world and says to them that we should change our religion, right? Now, these include all the bishops of the church. These include all the legates of Rome, the high senators. And he's saying that we should change our religion from Christianity to Islam, right? How do you think that the entire literate class of the Roman world never ever recorded that event?
I believe because that's not something they want to change. Like during the history, even Christianity have been changing depending on their desires. That's not something they want the history to be saying or reading about by Christians themselves, because that's not going to be in their benefit. Why would they write that? They will change it straight away.
Right. So let me address that point, because you've made an argument.
That you're reading for
which is your book.
It's not the same in 1,000 years, 500 years. Every couple of years it's changing. So actually.
So let me reply to your comment. Are you done? Have you finished everything you want to say?
Reply.
So in this hadith,
Bro, he's a
right?
snake, I'm telling you.
Right. Now notice his behaviour. Notice Dawood is saying I'm a snake into the ear. I'm trying to talk to this guy, and he's complaining about decorum. But look at Dawood's behaviour. Right? Yeah, thank you, brother.
My brothers, wallahi,
right? No. Now notice his misbehaviour. Notice his lack of decorum. Yeah. So, right. So what it says, right, in this story, and I agree, the fact that it changes is a problem, because this hadith comes in the 9th century, right? Comes 900 years later, 200 years later, in the 9th century. Now, when a historian looks for a historical event, do you agree that they look for something that's close to the event itself?
I can give you another
Yes?
It has to be close to the event.
Right.
Wait.
Yes?
They come with references. Who said
Yes.
this? Who's the person before him?
Right.
If the person afterwards is not trustworthy...
That's not true. That's not true. Brother, I'm going to reply to what you said.
deliver.
Would you like to
deliver
enter into
her-
this conversation as well then?
Okay.
Okay, so I'll
The
also
message-
include you in this
The
debate.
message indicates the Arius. Do you know about the Arius? Arisiyin.
No. We're talking about this Heraclius. This is what we're talking about.
This is the same,
Right.
same point.
So-
he sent him
Right.
a message.
So where's the evidence? Right, in this Sahih hadith,
Okay.
the entire literate class of the Roman world are brought together, and an emperor suggests that we change our religion. How is it possible that you bring together everyone that can write a record
He's not-
of the
he's not-
events of the Roman emperor who suggests a monumentous change like changing our religion, and they don't even record it, even piously, even to make him look like a hero? They never record it.
Islam is not to change your religion.
No, you've not misunderstood the point.
No,
Do you
no,
even
you
know the
misunderstand.
argument that I'm making?
The point of Islam is
What,
not
what's
to change
no?
you.
What's the argument I'm making? Because you don't know the argument I'm making, do
Okay,
you?
what's your...
There you go. So try to understand the argument before you jump in, brother.
Okay.
Okay.
You-
So
you-
my
you-
so,
you-
so
you
let me
mentioned
make
you
because
want
you
them to
because
change
you
their religion.
because you're forcing.
But
Let me
he
let me
want to bring
restate
them
no.
on the right way.
Let me restate my
It's
argument.
monotheism.
Let me
Tawheed.
let me restate my
Okay.
argument because you've jumped to a conversation. You don't know the beginning of the conversation, and your argument is irrelevant to the conversation. So let me try again. Right?
Okay.
Yeah. Don't listen to the rude boy. Try to have a decent conversation with me. Yeah. But you judge by his behaviour whether he's being rude right now, and decide whether he might have been rude in the past.
You
So-
hit someone with the
But I
Quran in the
believe
face.
someone-
If you
Someone
stab
fired.
me with your umbrella,
No,
you would
you
also
hit-
get
you
slapped.
hit with an
So,
umbrella.
ladies and
What kind
gentlemen.
of umbrella is that?
So, ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. So, this story in Sahih al-Bukhari comes 200 years after the event, right? It's first recorded in Sahih al-Bukhari, right?
Okay.
It's claiming that the entire literate class of the Roman world was invited to embrace Islam by Heraclius himself. Okay? Now, there's no corroborating evidence to this statement. Now, if I just say something that happened 200 years in the past, and it was so outrageously
I
unbelievable,
give you example.
you would ask for other proof, correct?
The proof.
Would you
is
ask for
Abu
other proof?
Sufyan, the man who become a Muslim.
There is something
After
called
this, we received this from since Abu Sufyan, the person
Right.
who gave the answers to Heraclius. You get the point?
Yeah.
And the Abu Sufyan is become a Muslim after this.
Go on.
Okay. And before the Heraclius make anything and invite the priest Christianity, he make investigation about the Prophet Muhammad, and he said, if I am there with him,
Yep.
I gonna wash his feet.
Right. Hold on one second.
He said like.
Hold
this
on
as
one
well.
second. So that's what that is
And
exactly.
we have
that's-
another proof.
No, hold on one second. Let me
The
just
Prophet
reply to
Muhammad
this.
message-
Let me just reply to this.
Okay.
Because here's why I don't find this story in your hadith believable. And you've got to understand what implications that has, because I'm saying that this story is made up.
Because after
Listen, no, and listen,
That's the
listen.
issue, is it?
No, listen. I'm trying to tell you. If you interrupt less, you'll hear me more.
Just tell, like,
Yeah.
is it
No,
the
I'm
issue
going-
that you're telling?
no, I'm going to
Is
try-
it because after 200
I'm going to
years,
try.
that's why you don't
I'm going to try to explain my point. If you listen to me,
Okay,
I
I'll
might
listen to
answer your question in the process of doing that. So, 200 years after the event, people make a fictitious claim about Heraclius, about the Emperor of Rome. Now, this is a problem for you guys because it would demonstrate, if I am correct, that lies are in your Sahih Hadith collection. Now, why do I say it's a lie? Reason one. Again, very quickly, I'm just going to lay out my points and then we can discuss them. Reason one is 200 years after the event. Reason two, there's no corroborating evidence when we could reasonably expect some form of corroborating evidence. Reason three, why would we expect reasonably corroborating evidence? Because the entirety of the literate elites of the Roman world were brought together, apparently according to this hadith, to embrace Islam. The people are going to record that kind of thing. That's a big deal. Even the story itself suggests that it was a big momentous deal, because according to the story, they all ran for the gates, crying, no, 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 no. So according to the story, it was a big emotional thing.
Do you know we have a chapter in Quran about the Rome?
That's not the.
About
We're not
the-
talking. We're talking about this
Wait,
hadith.
let me say
We're
this.
talking about this.
One
Go on.
sec. History. How do we have the history from 1,000 years?
Great question.
By references.
Great note.
If there is something in history that no one wants it to be passed to the next generation, they'll just take it off the books. It's disappeared. There's no internet, no Google, no databases.
That is true. That is
Same
true.
thing when the story comes after 200 years.
Yeah.
It's all based on references as well.
Yeah.
If there is some Whatever story that is, they will just cut it because that person is not trustworthy. Otherwise, that means if the reference is trustworthy, we can take it over next generations until it comes to us.
Okay,
these days.
let's talk about how we do history, because you've raised that point and it's valid to the conversation.
Can you apply that on the New Testament?
Sam, let me deal
you
with his
apply your
question.
criteria on the
No,
New
Sam, let me
Testament?
deal with his question.
Can you apply on
Sam, I'm going
criteria
to
on the New
interrupt
Testament?
conversations that you're recording because of
I
your
don't care.
behaviour. That's
Can
great.
you apply the New Testament?
Just
your
remember
criteria
that
on the New
everybody watches
Testament?
this.
I don't
Because of
care.
Sam,
I
I'll
don't care.
interrupt Dayu.
Are you
Now,
trying to intimidate
so let's
me?
let's
Can
talk
you
about
apply
let's
that?
talk
Can you
about
answer the
let's
question?
talk about how we do
Answer the
history.
question.
How do we get
Can you
history
apply
from the
your
past?
criteria on the New Testament?
We look for sources.
You
Not
can't.
authors, sources.
You can't.
Okay.
That's why you don't
Secondly,
want to answer it.
we look.
What kind of
No.
sources
Let,
are
I'm
sources?
just. Listen.
Yeah.
I'm telling you how we do history. You
Why
look
you
for
telling me? Who
sources. He clearly doesn't. You
That's
look
the
for
story we have to
sources.
read from
Listen.
the-
Yeah, I
the
doesn't.
Bible.
Are you
It's
listening?
based on you're
Right.
saying,
Okay,
I
right.
do not know anything.
So no, I haven't said
conversation with
I
me.
haven't said that. That's
So
what
look
Dawood
down
said.
on everyone.
That's what
That's what you
Dawood said.
just said right
That's
now.
what
down
Dawood
everyone.
said. Listen,
You don't have to say
listen.
it.
Why are you
Guys,
frightened?
don't
Why are you
I show
frightened?
you the
No,
message?
no. I'm going
The
to
message.
finish the point that I'm
Can I
trying
show
to
you the
make.
message
Let me
that
finish
was
the point
delivered
that I'm trying to make.
to Heraclius?
Let me finish the point I'm trying to make. So how do we do history? You look for sources. You look for early sources. You look for independent sources. When you've
what are
got
these
these
sources
three,
coming from?
listen,
Books,
listen,
that's what I
listen,
said. You're coming back to my points. Waste of time here.
listen.
Why am I having conversation with you and you're wasting
If
my
you want
time,
to run
mate?
away, that's fine.
I'm not running away.
The
You're
fourth
wasting
thing,
my
the
time
fourth
going
thing you
over
look
and
for,
over on a circle.
the fourth thing that you look for is archaeological facts, i.e., like instruments, tools. Like if there's a battlefield set in a particular area, you look for swords and things like that. When these four things triangulate, I'm trying to help you. Okay, guys, I'll just talk to the camera because he's not
And you
listening.
forgot oral tradition. So you don't know history. You forgot oral tradition.
when you look into these four things and they triangulate, right,
Can you apply your
what you
criteria to the
have
New Testament?
is a synergy of history, and then what you need is a hypothesis that explains all the evidence without bending, twisting, or changing the evidence. Now, if you've got a piece of evidence, a singular piece of
there
evidence,
is a scripture
that's hundreds
here.
of years later,
There is
right, that's not corroborated by everything else, it's sketchy, bro.
Can I answer?
Sketchy.
Very sketchy.
So all history
Yeah.
is sketchy now.
No, I didn't say that. You see, that's just your characterization. Okay, what would you like to say to reply to that? Would you like to reply to what I've just said?
It's like you're saying go left and right at the same time.
You want to
No,
approve?
that's not what I
That's
said.
what
You
he's
can't
saying.
follow this
You
conversation.
want
Go
to
on.
approve? You want to approve? This is
Of the hadith?
Of the hadith, yeah.
Yeah,
This is
okay.
a message, is a historical message. I don't want
That's full of bullshit.
Okay?
He is indeed, yes.
For 200 years to Heraclius.
Not that like what's going to
it's
become
like-
You can see,
Yeah,
is
like
it
you
still
talk
now?
to me, it's go like,
I think it's a British
You don't know what you're
museum.
talking about.
Okay.
And that's it. That's like
بسم الله
he's
الرحمن
like
الرحيم.
I don't speak Arabic. Can we just jump to the
Yeah,
English?
yeah.
Well,
Anything
just
you want,
just
you can
just
read
say
it
in
for you.
English. Just say in English.
Yes, but it's
Yeah, but I'm not
if I
Arabic.
said in an Arabic.
I just want to hear the English. What's the English?
Will you trust his translation?
He's a prophet. His tongue is Arabic.
Yeah, but
And
I'm
he's
not
gonna send
interested.
a
I'm
message.
not interested in the Arabic. Let's hear the English. I'm English. Talk to me in
In the
English.
name- in the
What's
name
it
of-
saying?
In the name of Allah.
Yeah.
Okay. From Muhammad, the messenger from Allah. Okay.
Yeah.
To Heraclius, Azim Rome. Is,
When I see you, that's how I'm going to deal with you. That's what
like the king of Romans.
I'm a regular here. Everyone knows.
Peace on
Go and ask
who
people on a regular basis.
follow
Yes, how I am as a
the
person.
guide.
So
Guidance.
this guy
Okay.
is a liar. He's a liar and he's
Okay.
disrespectful. That's the thing. He has arrogance.
After that,
He has a lot of arrogance.
I'm asking you to believe in Islam, okay? Submit your willing to only one creator, okay? Allah give you your reward twice.
Okay. Let me ask you this question.
Okay, okay,
Wait, wait, wait.
I try to translate it to you in English. Okay?
No, I hear you. What you're saying. You're saying this is a letter from Muhammad to.
And he mentioned
Okay.
about the Arius.
Yeah.
Do you know about the Arius?
Yeah. Right. No, Arius. Arius.
Arius,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Do you
yes.
know about him?
Yes, I know about
What-
Arius.
what is his?
No. Tell me what it says in the letter. What does it say about Arius?
Yeah, okay. How did he know about Arius anyway?
Because I had a
Prophet
degree.
Muhammad, one second.
Yeah,
How did he know? Prophet, how did he know?
Everybody knew about Arius in those days.
How did he know about the Arius?
I bet I'll answer that question, but I want
How
to hear.
did,
What did he
how
say
did
about
a
Arius?
man live in desert as you claim know about the Arius
Because
and about
I'll
what
tell
happened?
you. All right, I'll answer that question.
How did you know?
I'm going to answer that
Okay.
question. Muhammad was a trader. He went all the way through Syria. He went all the way through the Arabian Peninsula for his wife Khadija. Syria was predominantly
He traveled
Christian.
only his-
He
what is the
encountered.
difference?
He encountered. He
Reference the story that he
encountered.
visited
He
this area.
encountered
From where
Christians
did you
on
get this
his
information?
journeys.
The same criteria.
This is where he gets all the fabled stories of the Quran from.
How did
That's
you
why
know
the
that
Quran
he
is
traveled? How did you
plagiarizing the
know?
Quran.
Now it's your argument.
This is
How
where he
did you
gets
know?
all these
Okay.
stories
John,
from.
no,
That's
wait,
how he
wait.
knew about
How
Arius.
did
There's
he-
nothing miraculous
How
about
did
it.
he know? What is
Do you
the
know
reference?
how
Everyone
many
in that
times?
time.
Do you know how many
Arius
times?
was famous in those days.
Do you know how many times Prophet Muhammad traveled? all
Let's
his
come
life?
back to this hadith. Come on, what does your letter say?
How did he
Are
travel?
you- What does the letter say?
How many times Prophet Muhammad traveled
Okay.
all his life?
It doesn't matter. That's how he heard
How
it.
does it matter? You just
So what does he
said
say about
traveled.
Arius? What does he
You
say
made
about
a
Arius?
claim now.
What does he say about Arius?
He's a trader.
Tell me,
He
answer that
went
question,
to
please. What does he say about Arius?
I tell you.
Can you bring
See, if you had behaved like this in our entire conversation, no, you didn't. Go and look at our very last debate. Go and look at our very last debate. That's where it broke down, bro. No worries, no worries.
But you
It's a cramped park. Don't worry, don't worry.
towards me, trying to embarrass me in front of people. Why did you try to do that?
Bro,
When I've always
go and look at your own behaviour in that video. That's where our relationship broke down. You think you're the only one that got offended on that day. You're wrong. Go and look at your behaviour on that day.
Okay.
Now I'll agree to apologise if you do, but you don't even recognise you did anything wrong, and that's the problem.
Hold on. I have no qualms to not apologizing.
That's fine then.
But my issue
So don't
is
come
that-
to me all offended.
No. The issue is
You treated me like
Okay.
trash that
No,
day.
no,
Towards the end of that debate, we started off well.
Okay,
Towards the end of that
concept-
debate, go on. What did he say about
The
Arius?
scripture say,
What does he say about Arius, please?
oh, if you refuse the message of
Yeah,
Allah,
yeah.
you're gonna get the ithm, like the sin of the Arius.
Right, the sin of Arius.
Arius, yeah.
Okay, right.
The sin of what you make against Arius.
Yeah. Do you know why Arius was a famous name at the 7th century?
Yeah.
Why?
Because he was.
Why was he a famous name in the 7th century?
Because what I know about Arius, okay, he was asking the people to believe only in one creator.
No,
One
that's
God.
not true.
Okay.
That's not true.
What he was asking about Trinity?
No, he was against the Trinity.
So are you saying Muhammad was in favour of Arius?
One second.
Are you saying Muhammad was in favour of Arius?
All the messengers, all the prophets, they come deliver the message.
Did Arius
to-
deliver that message?
Who? Arius is not a prophet.
Right.
Arius is not a prophet.
Was Muhammad in favour of
He was
Arius?
oppressed in.
Was Muhammad in favour of Arius?
Yes, because
Okay.
he's a good man.
Did Muhammad think that?
He knows the right message is to believe in one
Okay,
creator.
I'm asking you, I'm just asking you.
Okay.
According to your understanding of the literature that you've read from Islamic sources, did Muhammad think that Arius believed in one God?
Yes,
Right. Now,
believe in one God.
Right. Now let me give you an example of why you shouldn't trust Muhammad, because I know the history of Arius and you don't.
I know.
Okay.
I read about Arius.
Okay, shall we do a quick...
Did you read?
Where was Arius born?
I don't care about where he's born.
Where did he
maybe
teach?
in Alexandria, maybe.
Where did he
I'm not
teach?
sure. I'm not sure.
It's
But
more likely Antioch.
but what I know.
Where did
what
he
I-
teach?
What did he teach?
Where did he teach?
I'm not sure. to be
Alexandria.
honest.
Who was his
But-
bishop?
Huh?
Who was his bishop?
He always-
Antony of Alexandria was his bishop. What exactly did Arius teach?
Okay. What Arius teach?
Yeah, what exactly did Arius teach? Because you're claiming you know about Arius, and you're claiming your prophet knew about Arius.
He teach the monotheism.
No, he didn't.
Tawheed.
No, he didn't. Let me explain to you.
How?
Exactly. Let me explain to you what Arius actually taught. Okay? Doesn't matter whether you, doesn't matter. Like, this is just a good history lesson for you. The only thing that's going to happen is you're going to walk away from this.
Who fight against
Let me
Arius?
finish, let
Who
me
fight
finish.
against Arius? Who
Uh,
attack Arius?
Antony attacked him.
No.
Yes. He's,
Nicholas.
No. Let
Nicholas.
me finish. Let me finish.
Okay.
Let me finish. He was criticized by his bishop Antony. Okay. A council was called at the council of, do you know? Nicaea, in the year 325 AD, that was attended by how many bishops? 320. One of those bishops was Saint Nicholas. What did Saint Nicholas do? He slapped him in the face. What happened to Saint
Thank
Nicholas?
you, thank
What
you.
happened to Saint Nicholas?
What happens?
They nearly defrocked him and they threw him in prison. Now,
This happened after.
what did Arius teach?
This, one second.
No,
this
but
happened
think-
after. This happened after.
What's your name, bro?
Nuclear.
Nicaea.
No. Magma Nuclear.
Nicaea.
After Magma
Nicaea.
Nuclear. Because Arius and his students,
Yeah.
his students, they were delivered the message of
Right.
Prophet Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Only to worship only one God.
And I just want to be clear. You
One
say
second.
Muhammad
That's
taught
why,
this.
That's why.
I want to be clear.
The Nicholas slapped him.
Is Muhammad teaching this? Did Muhammad teach that Arius taught that?
No, they don't. He's just.
You don't
mentioned-
believe that? Sam says no. Sam disagrees with you.
One second.
Sam disagrees
He
with you.
just mentioned as a historical
Yes.
that historical something historical take place.
What
and
did Arius-
he know,
what
he
did
know,
Arius teach?
He know about it.
What did Arius
after,
teach?
After 600 years.
What did Arius teach?
That make him a
What
true
did Arius
prophet.
teach?
You understand
What
the
did
point?
Arius teach? What did Arius
You
teach?
understand the point?
I understand that you don't know anything about Arius.
You know about something
You don't know anything
happened.
about Arius.
You know about something happened
No.
before he comes.
Shall I tell you what Arius taught?
600 years.
Let me tell you what Arius actually taught. Arius actually taught that Jesus was another God. That's what Arius taught.
No, that's why.
Go
I
and
say-
look into
say-
it.
That's why
Go and
they
look
make-
into it. That's why. Go and look into it. That's why Arians today
Did the
mistranslate John 1 by
second.
saying.
Can I ask you something?
Right. No. Now let's get back.
Did the-
No.
did the
No.
mother
One
of
second.
Nicholas-
One second.
Did the mo-
One second. One second.
I
Let's
just said-
go
I-
back
I-
to the original debate, which is about the hadiths, which you're getting away from.
Did
The hadiths state that the ruling classes of the Muslims, ruling classes of the Christians, all were invited to embrace Islam. Don't you think it reasonable that at least someone should have recorded that? Like, for instance, if Muhammad had got all the ruling Muslims together and thought, I think we should all become Christians, don't you think that a hadith would have been alive to record that event? I mean, it's a big event, right?
the main message is the submission?
No,
to only
that's
one
we're not
creator.
talking about that. Stick
Monotheism.
to the conversation. The conversation is about the fact that you have a lie in your hadiths. Your hadiths are lying to you.
Never.
Yes.
Never.
Now,
How did he know? One second.
Go on.
One second. How did he know about story happened before he come 600 years ago?
everybody knew about it at that time.
Oh my God.
According to
Okay,
Islamic sources,
okay.
wasn't one of
Did-
his uncles a
did-
Christian monk?
Did the
Wait.
mother of Nicholas?
One second. You're
Did
changing the subject.
Did the
You're
mother
trying
of
to change
Nicholas,
the subject.
One second.
No.
Did the mother of Nicholas?
You're trying to change the
Did the
topic.
mother of Nicholas?
You're trying to
Voluntaries?
change. You're trying to change the topic.
No. If
They're trying to change the topic. The topic
Did the
is
mother-
about this hadith.
Did the mother of
Look
Nicholas?
at what this hadith says.
Akhi, please. Did the mother of Nicholas become a Muslim or become followed Arius or no? Just yes or no?
So Nicholas.
Because this make me understand
So-
everything.
Right. Look at what this hadith says.
The mother
right?
of Nicholas. Did she followed?
Right.
Did she followed Arius or
One
no?
second. Look at this. Look at
Okay.
this. Look at the three questions.
Your information is very
Why,
good.
why are you
have-
running from your
I'm
hadith?
not running.
Then let's talk about the hadith.
I'm gonna
Right,
talk about
okay,
that.
great. Let's
But
talk about
please,
that.
Please,
No,
answer this question.
No,
I'm not running.
No, you
Go
are
on.
running. You're avoiding the question. We're talking about the hadiths. That's the conversation you interrupted. Remember? You interrupted my conversation about the hadiths that I was having with the other
Yes,
guy.
and I give you a
right.
proof.
So you didn't give me any proof.
What?
Let's talk about
I show
this
you the
hadith.
scripture. The
Let's talk
scripture.
about this
And
hadith.
Till now. Is it still till now?
You showed me
have the-
something.
we
You
have
showed
the
me something.
scripture.
When
The
is it
scripture
dated to?
till now.
When
Till
is it
now.
dated to?
Till now.
Where is it dated
You
to?
don't need to.
When is it dated
you
to?
don't have anything to hide it.
Is it what's the name of the document?
Is the text?
What is the
scripture-
name of the
One
document?
The
Where is it recorded?
Listen to me. The text of the scripture of the text is that being delivered to Heraclius.
No.
That's it.
No, that's your claim.
Check.
When is the letter
And
dated
Mr.
to?
Google, check.
Well, you check.
Visit
When
the
is
museum,
the letter dated
visit
to?
the museums and you
When
can
is the
find
letter dated to?
the
The problem with you is that you just take whatever your teachers tell you. You never check it.
I'm not sure, but in and maybe in the Prophet time, since he come like 7 after come after.
Let me ask you a
7
question.
years or 8 years.
At the time of the Prophet, did any Muslims leave Islam?
No.
That's a lie. When there's been a number of Muslims, even at the time of the Prophet, that left Islam. When, for instance, the first Muslims were sent to Ethiopia, one of the companions became a Christian in Ethiopia. One of the scribes of Muhammad abandoned Islam, according to your hadiths.
No, you
Listen,
misunderstand
listen,
the hadith.
listen,
No.
listen, and
You
then later
misunderstand the
re-embraced it. So, do you know about the companion that left Islam in
Yeah,
Ethiopia?
and the Prophet Muhammad.
So when you said no, were you lying to me or did you just not remember?
No, I'm not like you misunderstand what
Did you just not
happened.
remember?
Let me explain.
Did you just not
Let me
remember?
explain,
Go on.
okay. You know about my prophet more than me, or if I want to ask anything about your book, I ask you. If you want to know anything about my religion, you ask me.
But I asked you and then you gave me an
Okay.
answer and then contradicted yourself 3 minutes
You
later.
misunderstand.
So go on, clarify.
When the people worship the idols, attack the Prophet Muhammad and
That's
his
not what I'm
companions.
talking about. I'm talking about
Let
the
me
Muslim
explain
that
it.
went to Ethiopia
Okay,
that became a Christian. Tell me
Okay,
about him.
Okay. Step by step. When they attack the Prophet and the believers, the Prophet Muhammad, Allah revealed to him that you have to send the believers to Habasha.
And what happened
Ethiopia.
in Habasha?
Okay. And there is another, and he delivered the message to the king of Habasha as
What
well.
happened in
Nagashi.
Habasha?
If you know
What
about
happened
the
in
Nagashi.
Habasha?
Okay.
What happened in Habasha?
Okay.
To the Muslim that became a Christian.
And he advised them to go there and live there, and he told them their king is a judges, is a justice,
Yeah.
is a fair king.
Yeah.
Okay, and they lived there and they become normal community. And
Yeah.
They deliver the message there. They become many.
And what happened to
there.
the Muslim that became a
And-
Christian?
And after a period of time, he advised them to come back again. That's it.
Right. What happened? You see, you didn't answer the question. This is the point. Is you're saying you're going to answer a question and you're not answering the question. You admit that you know that one of the companions of the Prophet, when he went to Ethiopia, became a Christian. Is that true or false?
Become Christian.
Yeah, one of the companions of the Prophet, when he went to Ethiopia, became a Christian. Are you aware of that?
No.
Right.
Nobody
Go and wait. Go and wait.
Show me
Go
if
and
you have
wait.
anything.
Yeah, let's see if I can find it for you. Let's see if I can find it for you. Bear with us.
I've come late. What's the subject? What's the discussion? I've come late.
He talked about the one of the companies of the Prophet when they traveled to Ethiopia, when they make hijrah to Ethiopia. One of the companies he changed his religion to Christian. By the way, the king Nagashi, he's a Muslim, and our Prophet he make pray on him after his death. He doesn't know anything about Islam.
So it's connected to Hadith Book 1, Hadith 7. That's talking about the meeting between the companions. I'm updating you. You've asked to be updated. I'm
I was
updating.
just going to say, I wanted to say how you're doing. I've just gone into discussion.
Nice to meet you. What's your name?
We spoke before, Kyron.
Kyron.
year.
Forgive me for not remembering Kyron. It's not on purpose. So you've got a hadith, right?
Show me. You
So-
said one of Sahaba. he
Well,
changed.
would you guys, whilst I'm just talking with these guys, could you find the name of the Muslim that became a Christian in Ethiopia from the companion of the prophets? Do you know about that guy?
Yeah, so what's the point that's being made? I'm just trying to...
Firstly, let's establish whether you're aware of the person or not.
Yes.
Are you aware of the person? He's not. Are you aware of the person?
Is the question whether Sahaba apostatized from Islam?
Whether one of the Sahaba, that's not the question, it's a proof.
I know of at least one, yes.
Right. So, just for the record, you're saying that you are aware that one of the Sahaba apostatized in Ethiopia.
Ethiopia I don't know about.
Right.
I know of another one.
Go on, who's the other one?
Another Sahabi.
Can you please?
I forget his name.
Can you please find it? Michael, well,
Apostatized, and when
come
they
on, guys,
buried
help
him,
me out.
The ground would
I can't talk until
remain.
the name of the Sahaba that apostatized in Ethiopia, the name of the companion, the Muslim companion that became a Christian in Ethiopia.
Spit him out when they tried to pray him, bury him. It would remove him from the earth.
No, it's different.
It's a hadith, yeah. But also it's
Right, so here's my thing, right?
So I try to check up.
So you're saying you're aware of another Sahaba that became apostate, Sahabi,
Yeah.
that became an apostate.
Yes.
Right, what's his name? Just tell us, what's his story?
I know the story of him is
Go on.
he apostatized, and he was basically said that he was buried and the earth wouldn't accept him.
Sorry?
When they buried him, they found him, when they went back, they found his body outside of the grave. His body was not inside. So they buried him, and then the earth would not accept him.
Okay, and
I forget his name, it's a
okay.
long time ago.
Are you also aware of the scribe? Are you also aware of the scribe?
Sorry, one at a time.
Are you also aware of the scribe that abandoned Islam and then re-embraced it later, but he apostatized because he was writing down the revelation of Allah, and then he said something, and then Muhammad said that what he had said was the continuation of the revelation, and then he left Islam. Are you aware of that story? Yeah. So you do know about this story. So and he apostatized, didn't he? Yeah. Right. Now hold on 1 second. Right. Do you agree with me? Do you agree with me that if someone lies, they shouldn't be? It shouldn't be a Sahih hadith if they.
Can I just say, this is a hadith in Bukhari where there was
Yes.
interaction between
Can you? So I can pick you up on my microphones. Will you take your mask off?
I'm a bit unwell at the moment.
Fair enough.
I don't want to pass.
I'm willing to risk it if you. I don't mind if you don't mind.
It's been quite serious.
Fair enough.
3 weeks
Okay.
I've been
No
unwell.
worries. No worries. No worries.
This interaction between Abu Sufyan
Yeah.
and Heraclius.
Yes.
And he went to him, he asked him about the Prophet Muhammad. So I said him like, is he this and is he that and whatever. And then, like you said, it came to this question: does anybody who embraces the religion, what does it say? Renounce the religion? Are they
Yep.
displeased and renounce it?
Yep.
When this question was asked, if you look at the timeline, like when the interaction between Abu Sufyan and Heraclius was,
Yeah.
as far as I know, you can verify this and you can correct me, but I'm confident this is correct. This was prior to the event of this man apostatizing. You know the Sahabi you said about the
Yeah.
scribe.
But not before what happened in Ethiopia.
Sorry.
Well, not before what happened in Ethiopia with the Sahabi who apostatized in Ethiopia.
With regards to the timeline, to be honest with you, the one that was spit out from the
Guy,
grave.
and anyone found it yet?
And also-
Flood fire, great help.
And also, Bob, it's possible.
worries.
It's possible as well that Abu Sufyan,
Yeah.
the news of somebody apostatizing in Ethiopia had not reached him.
Right. Now,
That's a possibility as well.
but it's also possible that he lied.
Who lied?
That he knew and that he lied.
Who lied? Who?
Abu Sa'id.
Abu
Sa'id.
Sufyan. Abu
Sufyan.
Sufyan.
Yeah, Abu Sufyan.
Abu Sufyan was not a Muslim.
Right. Okay, so you're saying he wasn't a Muslim?
No, at
Right.
that time, Abu Sufyan was he was
Okay.
the leader of the opposition of the Muslims.
Okay. So, when we do history,
After the
go
battle
on.
of the Battle of Badr,
Yeah.
the Muslims had against the Quraysh.
Yeah.
A lot of the prominent leaders of Quraysh died, and Abu Sufyan took over as the leader of the opposition against the Muslims.
Yeah.
When he had the interaction with Heraclius, he
Yeah.
wasn't a Muslim himself.
Okay. Right. Let's just pull this up.
He became a Muslim later on after the Sulh Hudaybiyah, when there was the treaty between the Muslims
Yeah.
and the pagan Arabs
Yeah.
before the conquest of Mecca.
So he was not in a position then to answer the question, was he?
Abu Sufyan.
Yeah. At that time.
What the question where he said, does anyone renounce the religion?
Yeah.
Does anyone displeased?
He couldn't answer that question because if you're saying that he might not have known
Yeah.
that someone from Ethiopia had left Islam, which is a
Can we step
reasonable
back a bit, if you don't mind?
is a reasonable argument, right? Then logically it follows that he wasn't in a position to answer the question.
Right.
Agreed?
Abu Sufyan, if he's not fully aware of all of the affairs
Yeah,
of
he can't say that no one leaves it if he doesn't know that someone had left it.
It's fair to say. It's fair to
Right,
say, yes. Yeah.
but that means when he said no one leaves it, he was speaking in error, wasn't he?
Perhaps he was.
Right, now ends up being a deceit. He's now lying to Heraclius.
Yeah, but he's remember, he's pagan Arab. He's not a Muslim.
Right, but you said that you as a Muslim say that someone who is a known liar shouldn't be in the chain of a Sahih hadith.
Yeah.
They can be in a Da'if, they can be in maybe a Hassan, I don't know how the rules work, but they can't be in a Sahih. Do you get my point?
Bob, I understand.
Do you get my point?
I get the point.
Okay.
Let me make my point.
We'll talk about hadiths later, brother. I want to talk to you, it's fine, but I know you don't believe in hadiths. He does. I want to talk about the hadiths. 1 second, please don't try to hijack this conversation. It's not fair to him. Go on.
So, Abu Sufyan, like at the time, when this happened, this interaction anyway, he's not a Muslim, right? So, of course, like anything that Islam is teaching, at that time, let's say for argument's sake he lied. Let's say for argument's sake he lied, yeah?
Yeah.
Or, there's different possibilities. It could be he lied, it could be he was unaware, and from what his knowledge of the Muslims that were in Mecca, who were among them, none of them had renounced the religion. From his knowledge of the people around him, right? So, from his knowledge, they haven't renounced the religion.
Yeah.
So, if somebody apostatizes in Britain, for example, or wherever it may, far away, he's not going to know about it. Obviously, they weren't. Do you see my point?
Right.
He doesn't. If he doesn't know, he doesn't. He's talking from his observation, and yes, it's possible he could have been lying. But the teachings of Islam, he's not following the teachings of Islam at that time.
Yeah.
Do you see my point?
Right. You know Abu Sufyan's son-in-law happened before Abu Sufyan became a Muslim.
Sorry, what do you mean?
Sorry. Before Abu Sufyan met Heraclius,
Right.
Abu Sufyan's son-in-law had apostatized. Let me give you the evidence. Right. Let me just. So the person in question is Ubaydullah Bijash. Does that name ring a bell? Ubaydullah Bijash. Right? You can find this story. Yes. You can find this story in Ibn Ishaq, The Life of the Prophet Muhammad, written by Gilliam, 1967. Let me read what he writes, right? Ubaydullah went on searching until Islam came, then he migrated with the Muslims to Abyssinia, taking with him his wife, who was a Muslim, Habiba, and Abu Sufyan. When he arrived there, he adopted Christianity, parted from Islam, and died a Christian in Abyssinia. So that's before Sufyan meets Heraclius. So Sufyan went with him to Ethiopia, to Abyssinia. So he knew what had happened.
Abu Sufyan never went to Ethiopia. No. He didn't go to Ethiopia.
So do you not think he'd ask questions like, why has my relative not returned from Abyssinia?
He wasn't there. He didn't go there.
No. Do you not think, though, like that when his relative doesn't return from Abyssinia, he might inquire as to why? Okay. Isn't that the normal thing to do?
Of course,
right.
Makes sense, yeah.
So what I'm pointing out to you is that in the text of the hadith itself, the very source of the hadith is seen to lie to Heraclius because he says something he knows that is not true.
Does it say that Abu Sufyan, the news of his, was it his son-in-law, it said?
What?
It said? Who was it who apostatized? A relative, basically.
Yes, it says, right, basically, right, hold on 1 second. Yeah, he was Abu Sufyan's son-in-law.
Right.
So he was a relative.
Okay.
Now you know and I know that Arab families are tight today. They were even tighter back in the day. Like, they were tight units. They still are. It's one of the things that I admire. But
it's possible the news of his apostasy did not reach Abu Sufyan.
But by the time, what's the gap between the episode in Abyssinia and Abu Sufyan going to meet Heraclius? Do you know?
The time span between this event here.
Yeah, this event and the Abyssinia event.
I can't say I do know.
It's worth investigating. I don't know it myself. It's a good question for both of us to go away and investigate. But let us conclude. Let us be charitable.
Just to emphasise.
Sorry?
Just to re-emphasise what I'm saying, it's possible that Abu Sufyan, regardless, because look, if he's gone to Abyssinia,
Yeah.
the relative, and he's apostatized over there,
Yeah.
it's possible that news of the apostasy never reached him, regardless of the time span. Even if it's 2 months, 2 years, or 12 years, until Abu Sufyan died. The apostasy, the news of that could have perhaps never reached him. That's
Right. So, but it's also possible that Abu Sufyan's son-in-law went to Ethiopia with his daughter, remember, because he's a son-in-law. So we're guessing the wife, who was a Muslim, who is the daughter of Abu Sufyan. They stayed there in Ethiopia, and then when his daughter and his son-in-law don't come back, Abu Sufyan goes, why haven't my daughter and my son-in-law come back? And they go, the reply is, oh, because he's become a Christian. That's more possible and more probable, unless these two events are separated by days or weeks.
like I said.
Right, so the important question is to go away and check out, for both of us, because I don't know either, the date. But let us assume, let us be charitable and come to the middle ground. Let us say that Abu Sufyan did not know. But that means that he wasn't in a position to say that no Muslim ever left the religion. And to speak in a way that is erroneous and to mislead people when you're not in a position to know shows that you're not a reliable source of information. Would you agree? If I speak about things that I don't know, it means that I'm not a reliable source of information. All the Muslims in the comments will say, oh, that's true, that's exactly what you are. And they'll use that as an argument against me. Well, I'm using it against Abu Sufyan right now. You saw that? See what I did there?
As I said previously, Abu Sufyan at that time was not a Muslim.
So
what I'm saying is, if he lied, if he did lie, so I'm not disagreeing with you.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that he didn't lie.
Right.
It's possible he did.
Yeah.
Let's say it's possible he did. But for him, he did not see, like, if Islam, if it comes to, like, for example, like the hadith and the people who narrate them and their reliability and the fact that they don't lie, they're honest people, whatever it may be. He himself, if he does not feel the teachings at that time of Islam apply to him, i.e. not lying,
Yep.
you know, and whatever.
Yep.
And if one second, and just give me a second.
He didn't lie, by the way.
No, I'm not saying he does. I'm saying
he never lied.
No.
But I tell you something.
I've shown you that he did lie. I'm showing you that he did lie.
Brother, please let me finish my point, please. And then
Yeah, he's actually at least dealing with the argument. Go on.
So, if he did lie, I'm not saying he did. I'm saying, okay, perhaps he did. Perhaps he did lie. Perhaps you're right. He lied. But the teachings of Islam, he does not feel apply to him. And then later on, he embraces Islam and he renounces his ways, his previous ways of being a liar, if he was, and lying there.
Okay,
By the way, this conversation during the Hudaybiyah agreement, during the Hudaybiyah, Sulh Hudaybiyah, this means after the Ghazwat Uhud.
Right.
Okay? So, you have to ترتب like
step by step.
Yeah, step by step. What
chronology.
happened?
The chronology.
Yeah, historically.
Wait, no offense, bro, but when I tried to give you the opportunity to talk about this, you didn't. He is, so I want to talk to him. I want to talk to you because you're actually engaging in the argument that I made. Right, so here's my other...
Can I not?
No,
it's okay.
no, I want to talk to him. No, brother, we tried...
For one question and I go.
Very quickly, go on, what's the question?
One question, please. Nicholas, did his mother follows Arius or no?
I don't know. Okay, now let me come back to you. So, in terms of the question, right? Because what I'm trying to, let me be clear about what I'm saying to you. I'm saying to you that I've got strong evidence that your Sahih Hadith collections have a lie inside them. Now, you tell me if I were correct, just hypothetically, if I were correct that I have demonstrated a lie inside your Sahih Hadith collection, what are the implications of that?
The thing is here, if there's, like, because he's narrating, like, I don't know the narrator of the Hadith. Did it say Abu Sufyan was the narrator of that?
I can tell you.
Incident, or was it
bear with us.
Else who was a witness to it and was basically...
I can tell you, bear with us. I should be able to. Narration chain. Now, I don't quite know how the app lays it out, so I'm guessing it's in chronological order. So I'm guessing it goes Ibn Abbas, Ubaydullah bin Abdullah bin Utbah, Al-Zuri, Shubayb bin Hamza, Al-Hakam bin Nafi, Abdul Al-Yaman. So Abu Suyaf doesn't even appear in that list.
Abu Sufyan.
Abu Sufyan doesn't even appear in that list. So,
Right.
I mean, I haven't quite figured out how the app, what it's telling me here, to be honest. But that is, as you can see, narration chain. That's the list of names that it gives you.
Just to address the point you said, is it possible that there's a lie in your Sahih hadith?
What's the implications if there is a lie in the hadith collection?
So let's say, for example, now Abu Sufyan was lying. It was a lie.
Yeah.
He actually, the news reached him
Yeah.
that somebody had apostatized. Again, like I said before, it's possible the news did not reach him.
Yeah.
Now, let's say he lied. He did lie. As I said previously, he did not feel that the teachings of Islam applied to him.
Yeah.
So, even if he did lie then, it's not...
That's not the question that I asked you. So let's try again. The question that I asked you was, if it turns out that I'm correct and this is a fabricated hadith, i.e.
No, that
the
wasn't-
conversation never took place in the first place, it's a total
That was
fabrication.
not the question. Whether it's
What
fabricated.
is the implications if there is a lie in the Sahih collection? That was the question. Try again, please, to answer that question.
No. Your question was not that. It was about fabric. You said about fabricated hadith just now.
If there is
You
a
didn't say-
lie...
You said what's the implications if there's a lie in the Sahih hadith? That's the question.
Yes, so if one of the hadiths is a lie, what's the implications to the concept of Sahih,
Like,
the collection
Look,
of Sahih?
it doesn't affect it at all. I'll tell you why.
Right, go on.
Because
So
if he lied, right?
no, if the entire hadith is a lie,
Yeah, like you're saying a fabric. The question.
I am. So let me be clear.
No. Let me just clarify what you're trying to say. I don't.
Well,
want,
how about I
don't
just
want-
tell you?
I don't
I'll tell you in one sentence.
No, because maybe I misunderstood.
Well, so let me tell you in one sentence, so you can't misunderstand. In one sentence, this hadith, from beginning to end, is a total fabrication.
That was not your argument.
That is my argument. You came into it late. If you had been here from the
Right,
beginning,
but
you would know that that's what I was
but
saying.
when we were discussing it, that's not what you told me. You weren't saying that the hadith, the integrity. We weren't talking about the integrity of the hadiths.
Well, this is what happens when you jump into a
authenticity.
conversation only halfway through, is that you don't pick up
Well,
where it was going.
Well, that's what you're going
Right,
to clarify.
so now this is my argument.
Now the argument is a fabrication of the hadith.
Yeah, the whole of the hadith is a lie. One of my proofs that it is a lie. Shall we take a step back from the barking dog?
It's okay. It's okay.
Right. One of the proofs that it is a lie is that the one of the people in the story, let's just say he wasn't a Muslim, is shown to be someone who is willing to lie.
I've already explained this. Though.
Right. I know what you've said. I know what you've said.
Yeah.
You're saying that
But
he didn't know about the laws of Islam.
Right.
Right?
Right.
But I would say that even a pagan knows that
No,
you
no.
shouldn't lie.
No.
Even a pagan knows that you shouldn't lie.
But, look.
I don't think Islam's special in saying you shouldn't lie.
No. I'm not saying that either. But what I'm saying is, if he's gone from being because this hadith itself, you're not coming. When you're saying about it's a lie, you're not basically saying it's inauthentic because it's found in the Sahih, isn't it?
What I'm saying is, so what I am saying is that because this entire hadith is a lie, it means that you cannot know what are reliable and unreliable hadiths.
When you say it's a lie, are you saying the words where Abu Sufyan was saying that when
I'm
he said
saying
no?
the entire story is fiction from beginning to end.
Why do you say that though?
Right,
Where's your
great-
evidence for
great
that?
question.
Where's your evidence for that?
Right, so here's my evidence, my points of evidence. Point number one.
Right.
The source of the story is himself in the story seen to be a liar. 2.
Right.
The hadith itself only appears in the 9th century. It's 200 years after the event.
Yeah.
It's 200 years after the event. 3. We have no corroborating evidence that this event occurred when we can reasonably expect corroborating evidence to be there. 4. What we actually know about Heraclius flies in contradistinction to the person that is being portrayed in the story. Now, which one of those 4 points do you want to interrogate?
So you're essentially saying
the person in the story, the source of the story, is seen to be a liar. We've already discussed that.
Yeah.
2, it's a 9th century story, not a 7th century story. Bearing in mind it was written at a time when Muslims were fighting the Romans that they're writing about.
Now let's just go back to point one. Point one.
I'd like to move on to point 2, 3, or 4.
Let me address it as you've explained it now. You've gone. I don't want 1, 2, 3, 4 to remember them all.
Okay, fair enough.
We do it one at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So point 1, you're saying about the person who's narrating it lying. I'm not saying he did. I'm saying it's possibly did. Right?
I think he did.
Right. So, if, for example, you told a lie in the past, you told a lie,
Yeah.
and you're no longer a liar, you're truthful, and you narrate the story of the past of when you lied, that doesn't mean because you lied in the past that you cannot be trusted now.
But shouldn't you tell the people you're telling the story to that at this point I lied? Like, isn't that what an honest man does? He goes, I lied in the past, and what I said then, here, I said this, but I was lying.
Yeah, but again, we have not established. Remember when we said about this, his daughter and his son-in-law going to Abyssinia?
Yeah.
We've not established whether the story of his apostasy had reached Abu Sufyan.
Right.
So it's possible that he lied and it's possibly told the truth.
But it's all, but it is possible, and I think what you need to do, and what I need to do as well, we need to look at the time differential between what happened, the events of Abyssinia, according to Islamic sources, and this event,
And the event of Heraclius.
Because I honestly think that it is quite right to assume that if Abu Sufyan's daughter didn't come back from Abyssinia because she stayed with her husband who had converted to Christianity, that he would, that Abu Sufyan would go, where's my daughter? Where's my son-in-law? People, these families were tight-knit communities. Arabs depended on one another's
remember,
survival.
at that time,
Let's move the argument forward.
Can I just at that point just to address your point, like about the tight-knit communities? Yes, you're right. They're very tight-knit, and they value tribe over perhaps many things, tribe and family, and so when she, say for example. So she stayed. Say, for example, she remained. She and her husband remained over there. Oh yeah, that's another point I was going to make. Is at that time when
I can barely hear you, bro.
where the Ethiopians, the Muslims moved to Abyssinia.
Yeah.
Yes, the pagans were concerned about that, and they sent like a representative to go and speak to the king, so that the Muslims may be released and sent back to Mecca. So they were concerned. I'm not saying they weren't concerned with the affairs of the Muslims in Abyssinia, because they did send somebody over there to try and convince the king to send them back to them.
Yeah.
But bear in mind, that was not their main concern. The Muslims of Abyssinia, their main problem, their main threat, what they felt threatened by was the Prophet Muhammad. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. May blessings and peace of God be upon him.
Let's come back to the second, what we know about Heraclius. Let's come to what we know about Heraclius.
Just let me finish this point, because you've given like many points. I just want to just touch on one at a time, and we move it on from that. The affairs of the Muslims, it was not, the spotlight was not just on them. There was stuff going on in Mecca as well. Like they had the Prophet Muhammad.
All of this is irrelevant to the argument.
It is relevant. It is relevant.
Let's come to the
reason why it's relevant. The reason why I'm saying this, I'll tell you why it's relevant. Let me just finish this point. I'll let you continue. Let me just finish this point.
Go on.
The reason why it's relevant is because it's possible that due to what's happening in Mecca, because the Prophet Muhammad, him and his mission, what he's doing, and the separation he's causing because of the people becoming Muslims, families disowning their relatives, right?
Go on.
Because of this, what's going on there? Something like the news of somebody apostatizing. Being concerned.
This was his daughter, bro.
But hear this. His concerns with what's going on in Abyssinia may not be tantamount to what's going on in Mecca at the time.
Be honest. If your daughter disappeared, wouldn't you ask a question where she is?
But remember, that at that time, that was perhaps for Abu Sufyan, not as important as what's happening in Mecca.
Well, people will have to decide whether people love their children. Anyway, let's move the argument forward. Because what we do know about Heraclius is this. Do you know anything about Heraclius?
Do I know anything about him?
Yeah, what do you know about Heraclius? Apart from this story. Do you know anything apart from this story?
About Heraclius?
Do you know anything?
I guess I have not read, too deep into the history of the Eastern Byzantine Empire, and the leader.
Yep.
So yeah, my knowledge is as far as
okay, so let me. At this point, the beautiful bit about this section of the conversation, all you're going to do now is increase in knowledge. Just going to tell you a little bit about Heraclius. Okay. Right.
I mean, this is why we, the should be the intention of all of us when we come here.
So Heraclius was born in Cappadocia in 641.
What's the sources that you're reading from?
I'm using Britannica.
Okay, Encyclopedia Britannica.
The Encyclopedia Britannica. Okay, he was an Eastern Roman emperor between 610 and 641. He reorganized and strengthened the imperial administration and the imperial armies. But lost, obviously, Syria, Palestine and Egypt to the Muslim conquests. He was born in eastern Anatolia. Let me just move on to... In 610, Heraclius dropped the anchor of Constantinople, deposed Phocas as emperor, and was crowned emperor of a crumbling empire. Okay? Shall we move away from the shouty person?
Where to?
Shall we move over there a bit?
No worries.
We're going to move over there. Do you want to grab your camera? So, from the Oxford Britannica, right? So the Persians overrun large parts of Anatolia. The Turkic Avars, who ruled over the Slavic and other tribes that occupied the region between the Don and the Alps, exacted tributes. In 614, the Persians conquered Syria, Palestine, taking Jerusalem, and what was to believe Christ's cross in 619, okay, and occupied Libya, right? An effort to placate the Plata's, Heraclius met them at Thracian Heraclea. They sought to capture him. He rode back to Constantinople. He was pursued all the way, right? So this is a man who's fighting for his empire, right? And I don't know if you know by then, but they were also deeply religious. In 622, clad as a penitent and bearing the sacred image of the Virgin, he left Constantinople as prayers rose from its many sanctuaries for victory over the Persians, the Zoroastrians, and the recovery of the Holy Cross and the reconquest of Jerusalem. So those were his goals. Capture Jerusalem, reclaim the Holy Cross, and he went out as a penitent carrying an icon. Now the point that I'm making, because I don't want to talk too much, I'm going to land on this point now so you can reply, is that when we look into the history of who Heraclius was, he was a man of deep piety and commitment to the Christian faith.
Right.
Now, do you think that a man of deep piety and commitment to the Christian faith is going to abandon the religion because of the conversation that is recorded in Sahih Al-Bukhari 1:7? Do you know what happened in that conversation?
So, from what I recall of the conversation, he asked some questions. Abu Sufyan some questions about the description of the Prophet Muhammad.
Yes.
He asked him questions and he responded. However, he responded. Abu Sufyan did. It's possible. You'll see people that they have a few questions. Like when it comes to Al-Islam, how you doing, Afid? Assalamu alaikum. You alright? You alright? When it comes to the religion of Islam, someone may say to someone here in Speaker's Corner, or ask the question, what do you believe about Jesus Christ? As a Muslim, what's your belief in Jesus? We believe that he's a prophet of God and a messenger, like Moses and Abraham and those who preceded them. And what is your belief concerning this and that, right?
Can we just go through what the question in
I'm
Hadith
addressing it. It's relevant to Heraclius. So, because you asked me, is it possible that such a man, because as you read, he was penitent and he was carrying the cross.
Who led the first Christian religious crusade.
Right. Is it possible that this man would leave Christianity
based on this
conversation with Abu Sufyan? I would say yes, it's possible.
Right, let's actually look at the question. Bearing in mind, right, what I've read from you from the British Oxford Encyclopedia is that we see a man who leads a religious war to retrieve a piece of wood. He wears penitential clothes, even though he is an emperor.
Yeah.
And he goes out and he fights for the Christian faith against the pagans of the Persian Empire. Right? And these are the questions that he asks according to this hadith. And you're trying to suggest that this is enough to convince him, and I don't think it is.
It's possible.
No, I don't.
Because that's. Let's be fair. If I say yes, it's possible he did. You say no, it's not. It's our opinion.
Right, but the point is, we are both people of experience, and we both know people of deep commitment and faith. Now, while it is possible for a person of deep commitment and faith to change their religion, and they do all the time. I was just speaking to a Muslimah this week who's become a Christian in Egypt, right? They do change their faith all the time. It's not uncommon. But people of deep faith and commitment don't do it on their very first encounter with a new religion.
It's possible. It's possible.
It's
possible. And if you look into the history of people who've accepted Islam, you may find many. You might find like people who were nuns, monks, devoted in monasteries and vice versa. They have one conversation. They embrace Islam at the end of that conversation.
Right. Let's actually look at the questions that are put into the mind. Let's look at the questions that Heraclius asks. Okay, right? He asks these questions, right? So the first question he asks is, what is his family status amongst you? The second question he asks, has anybody amongst you ever claimed the same before him? To which the answer is no. That's just the answer, no. The next question, was anybody amongst his ancestors a king? The answer is no. Heraclius asked, do the nobles or the poor follow him? The answer is, it is the poor who follow him. Then he asks, are his followers increasing or decreasing?
Increasing.
The reply is, they are increasing. Then he asks, does anybody amongst those who embrace his religion become displeased and renounce the religion afterwards, which is the point that we discussed earlier. And the answer is no. Then he asks, have you ever accused him of telling lies before his claim? The answer is no. Does he break his promises? The answer is no. We are at truce with him, but we do not know what he will do in it. I could not find the opportunity to say anything against him except that. Heraclius asked,
you see here.
Wait. Have you ever had a war with him? The answer is yes. And he said, what was the outcome of the battles? The answer is, I replied, sometimes he was victorious and sometimes we. And then Heraclius asked, what does he order you to do? And then he says, he tells us to worship Allah and Allah alone and not to worship anything along with him and to renounce all our ancestors had said. He orders us to pray, to speak truth, to be chaste and to keep good relations with our kith and kin. Right. Now, according to this hadith, that conversation and those replies are enough to convince a man who had just won a religious war and thanked God for the victory of fighting pagans and fighting this religious war and winning and building churches in celebration of it, wearing penitential clothes even though he's an emperor, carrying the icons of the Virgin Mary, using his money and treasure to retrieve a piece of wood because he thought it was sacred. And this hadith is meant to convince us that this conversation was enough to convince him to abandon his religion. It makes no sense at all.
Okay, can I respond to that?
Yeah, go on.
Right. So when it comes to the conversation, like as I said, it's subjective between us.
Yeah.
If you can say it's impossible, I can say it's possible. Like there may be one question a person has concerning Islam, and it's enough for them to become Muslim. Now, also on top of that, this conversation Abu Sufyan had with Heraclius, it's possible that when Heraclius went away, he had a conversation with somebody else or there was more information that he tried to extract from Abu Sufyan, which, in addition to the questions he had, which was not narrated, and that added to his conviction, and he became Muslim.
Yeah, carry on.
You know.
Yeah.
So even if, for example, it said, has this man, like the question that he asked, has this man had any, along the lines of anyone in his ancestry that were kings? And he said no. If that convinced him, that convinced him. Yeah. Everybody is a subjective thing. Like, people accept this. It takes some people years and years and years and years to accept Islam. Like myself, like it took me a long time. I took maybe 6 years. Go on. And then you get somebody else who has one conversation, you accept Islam straight away in Speaker's Corner, wherever you may be in the world. But everybody's experience varies.
Right. I just want to find you the bit.
But can we not agree on that though? That everyone's experience is different.
But I think there is also a degree of reasonableness that we have to apply to this, in that this argument relies on many angles. One of the keys to this angle, right? Because I'm going to, for the sake of the argument, to demonstrate the point I'm making, I'm going to allow you your point. I'm not going to wrestle with that point. So I'm going to accept that maybe in his heart he wanted to convert to Islam, right? But the thing is, he announces to the entire people that we're all going to do this. And I want to find it. Here we go. Okay, after hearing that, Heraclius remarked that the sovereignty of the Arabs had appeared. Heraclius then wrote a letter to his friend in Rome, who was as good as Heraclius in knowledge. Heraclius then left for Homs, a town in Syria, and stayed there till he received the reply of his letter from his friend, who agreed with him in his opinion about the emergence of the prophet and the fact that he was a prophet. On that, Heraclius invited, so we've got correspondence now. So that this text is saying that Heraclius wrote a letter and that someone wrote back. Now my question to you is, how did Abu Sufyan know that?
What information did he know?
After Abu Sufyan clears off, right, Heraclius, right, he stays behind, okay, and he sends a private correspondence to to someone in Rome, who sends a private correspondence back,
right,
okay. How does Abu Sufyan know that these two wrote to one another?
How does he know about that? It's possible it was conveyed to him.
What?
It's possible that was conveyed to him.
By who?
Whoever it may be.
Right. So my point to you is, if Abu Sufyan hears about this letter, why is no one else in the 7th century hearing about this?
Hearing about the correspondence between Heraclius
and his mate in
Rome.
Yeah.
What do you mean nobody else is hearing about it? Like,
well, here's my point.
Yeah.
Because given what this text is saying, we should reasonably expect corresponding evidence. Right. Because this text is claiming that Abu Sufyan knew about a private correspondence between Heraclius and his friend.
Right.
And if Abu Sufyan learns about it, then we can expect that other people knew about it as well.
Not exactly.
And yet we know of no one that talks about it.
Not precisely. Not exactly. I mean, for example, now if there's a correspondence between me and you, right? It's one person could come to know about it here in Speaker's Corner, the rest could not. It doesn't necessarily mean because one person has learned of that information that many people must.
Do you think that the Emperor of Rome and Abu Sufyan became best friends?
No, but it's possible that Abu Sufyan knew somebody who was close to the emperor, close to someone, or the person who was corresponding. There are many ways that information can reach somebody.
I think that's a cope. Honestly,
Sorry,
a cope.
A cope.
Cope. When you clutch at straws to try and make your argument stand up.
No, not at all. Because it's you know and I know that it's like he has got access to the emperor.
Who has? Abu Sufyan?
Like he's talking to the emperor.
So does the priests.
And the bishops and the legates. But what I'm saying is,
and his courtier advisors.
How many people in his under Abu Sufyan's kingdom, not Abu Sufyan, sorry, Heraclius' kingdom.
Yeah.
Like the Romans.
Yeah.
How many of them do you think had access to Heraclius?
Right, that's a great question.
The regular people.
Quite a lot, actually. When you're the emperor of one of the biggest empires, you don't get left on your own. You've got courtiers all the time.
No, but I'm talking about the general folk. The general folk.
There's going to be people in the Byzantine Empire who know and have access to Heraclius every single day.
But not everybody, though.
Definitely not Abu Sufyan.
No, but my point is.
Think about what you're trying to get me to believe.
Yeah.
You're trying to get me to believe that some Arab messenger that Heraclius met once knows more about what's happening in Heraclius's private life than his own courtiers and historians.
Yeah, no, so look.
Do you see why I'm struggling?
No, firstly, Abu Sufyan having access to him. Say now there's like the advent of Islam is kicking up a stir. It's kicking up, like a lot of people are hearing about what's going on in Arabia, about what's happening amongst the people of Mecca. That there's been a battle between the Muslims and the pagans, and the Muslims beat them when there was only 313 of them and over 1,000 pagans. Now, if Abu Sufyan they learn that there's a caravan that's arrived in the kingdom of Heraclius. It's possible then that due to he's hearing about this, he's heard there's an Arab caravan. Due to him wanting to inquire more, it's possible for that reason. I mean, with regards to the details of how he got access to the court of the king, to the court of the Emperor Heraclius. I don't know those finer details, whether it's because they heard of the caravan, they invited him in, or for whatever reason. But there are ways. It's not an imposibility. And also with regards to like the correspondence.
Okay, so
and Bob, can I just say? Just to conclude, I'm being reasonable. I'm not trying to clutch at straws. It's possible, like for example now, like a correspondence between King Charles, for example, King Charles and somebody else, a private conversation. It's possible that people like us, even though we're not close to him, we can still somehow get that information due to knowing somebody that works in the palace, for example.
So there's the thing is, one of the ways that we do history is that we don't add extra theories that are unnecessary to. Wait. This is historical methodology.
Sure.
Is that if the evidence that you're presenting requires ad hoc extra links in the chain for it to hold up to scrutiny, it means that the evidence you're presenting shouldn't be trusted.
Yeah, but the thing is,
and that's what you're doing right now.
But
you're adding extra links to the chain because I've asked you a question that demonstrates the falsity of the text itself.
But can I just push back on what you just said?
Yeah.
Now, going by that criteria, going by you're saying you can't. Basically, you're theorizing. You need evidence. Basically, is what you're saying. I need evidence for what I'm claiming.
Yeah.
Essentially. Now that we can say the same for earlier on with the Abu Sufyan and his daughter incident. You don't have evidence that information reached Abu Sufyan that his son-in-law had apostatized.
Which is why, if you remember, earlier in the conversation, I said that's a possibility, but I argued why it's also more reasonable to suggest that he would have asked why his daughter had not returned from Abyssinia.
But again, that means you're going against your own criteria, because you're saying that
which is more reasonable. That a man should ask about his daughter's disappearance.
No, hear this. You're saying that you were trying to say that he was a liar, but you don't have the evidence for it. Is what I'm saying.
I do have the evidence.
No, that the news reached him concerning his son-in-law apostatized.
And that, if you remember, I said what we need to do is we need to check the time differential between the visit to Abyssinia and his supposed conversation with Heraclius, because the bigger that gap is, the more likely he would have asked the question.
What I'm saying is that you haven't verified that, and you're making that claim, and you're saying I can't make a claim, but you haven't got the evidence.
Right. But that's one of the questions everyone should go away and look at. What is the time differential between the event in Abyssinia and this conversation? Because if it is in months or years, it's reasonable to conclude that he would have asked, where is my daughter? Why hasn't she come back with everyone else?
But what I'm saying is, okay, fair enough. I get what you're saying. I'm not saying it's unreasonable what you're saying. But what the point I'm making is, you're coming to me now telling me that I can't give these theories if I don't have evidence. And I'm saying, let me finish, please. I just want
to say hi.
Peace be with you, love.
Yeah, I've
Good to
seen
see
you
you.
guys on video so many times.
Cool, man. What's your name?
My name is Javed.
Javed,
I'm phoning
nice to
from
meet you.
Oman.
Oman.
Yeah.
Nice to meet
And
you,
I've
man.
seen your videos, I've seen your arguments, Hashim, and it's cool watching you guys.
Are you visiting? Are you?
I'm visiting. So I just took out some time to come here specifically to meet you guys.
Are you a Christian, bro?
No.
Muslim?
I'm Muslim, but I believe in God, and I think
Can I give you a gift to welcome you into my country?
Okay.
Since you've greeted us so friendly, I'd like to give you a gift.
All right.
Just to show
But I'm hardcore Muslim, don't worry.
a bit of human solidarity for you.
Yeah.
Do you have a Bible, bro?
If you're gonna give me a Bible, I read everything online, so I do have me e-Bible.
Then I won't give you a Bible. I'll give you a book you can't get on
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I'm being rude. I interrupted you guys.
There you go.
Okay.
Merry
All
Christmas.
right. Thank you.
Take care.
Take care of yourself. Enjoy your stay.
Right, so
But the point, just because I was talking before.
Yeah, you were.
So the point I'm making is, you're telling me that I'm basically theorizing. I'm saying you were doing the same thing earlier.
what I'm saying is that you're trying to explain away something that a reasonable man would look at this and go, right, this causes us to doubt the evidence.
Explain.
Let me finish.
Yeah, sure.
Causes us to doubt the evidence because the narrator of this hadith is claiming to know about the private correspondence of the emperor. Remember, this emperor spent his entire life.
How's my camera got
His
over there?
entire life.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Seems like it was moved. I don't know.
Yeah. This emperor spent his entire life fighting the Muslim world, right? In history, that's a fact.
Right.
Now, the other problem with so I've suggested to you that's a good grounds to doubt this hadith, and then your response.
Sorry. What's good grounds to?
The narrator of this hadith
Right.
is claiming to know about the private correspondence of the Roman Empire, of the Roman emperor, where not only is he saying he knows who he wrote to, but he's saying that he knows what was said.
It's possible. It's possible.
I think a reasonable man would
No,
conclude
I think a
that
reasonable
without
person-
corroborating evidence, it's more likely that this is a lie.
I know. I think a reasonable person can say that it's possible for such information to reach people. How many private conversations of in the palace, for example, here, and private conversations amongst politicians and sensitive information gets leaked to the public here.
Yeah. So that's my point about corroborating evidence. If your argument is true, then, and bear in mind what comes next in this story, and I'll just read it because it adds to my point, but it's linked to the previous point. So in this hadith it goes on to say that on that Heraclius invited all the heads of the Byzantines to assemble in his palace at home.
Hold this, please.
The Heraclius invited, listen to this next bit, all the heads of the Byzantines to assemble in this palace at Hom. He ordered that all the doors of his palace be closed. Then he came out and said, "O Byzantines, if success is your desire, and if you seek right guidance and want your empire to remain, then give a pledge of allegiance to this prophet, i.e. embrace Islam." So here he's invited all of the elites of Rome to embrace Islam, right? Look at their reaction according to this story. On hearing the views of Heraclius, the people ran towards the gates of the palace like onagers, but found the doors closed. Heraclius realized their hatred towards Islam, and when he lost the hope of them embracing Islam, he ordered that they should be brought back in audience. So in other words, the hadith is saying that this is a traumatic event. And this is all the leaders of the Byzantine Empire, that's bishops and its legates, right? Councils, consuls, those kinds of people. Are you telling me that the entire literate class that have this traumatic event, none of them bother to record it in history, none of them put it down in a letter. This is why a reasonable person, if this story was true, would expect corroborating evidence.
Okay, can I?
And we have none, zero, nada.
Just to push back on that, when it comes to like, because you said if such a traumatic event occurred, why was it not recorded by the people that were the people who were there and experienced?
Yeah, like the Gospels.
Right. It's possible. It's possible. How long ago was this? This was over 1400 years ago. It's possible. Like people here, people in this day and age, people diary. They journal. Sorry.
Yeah.
They journal.
Yeah.
Right. They may go home and they may express it to their family.
Yeah.
Something happened at work today.
Yeah.
This event happened. My boss did such and such. It was such a nasty thing that he did. Whatever. They just tell their family about it.
Yeah.
It's possible that they write it down and they send a letter.
Yeah.
So all of just because we don't actually have it does not mean that they did not record it down. People have different methods of communicating.
No, you're arguing that the absence of evidence is not evidence of absence.
It's basically.
And I agree. The absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. But my point to you is this: is that in the absence of corroborating evidence, in the fact that the only evidence that you have is 200 years later from the event that it describes. Sahih al-Bukhari is 200 years later.
Yeah, that's another discussion. You're talking about the hadith because the hadith.
Let me continue.
Yeah, go on.
The fact that the character, the story itself raises some really peculiar questions about knowledge that's beyond Abu Sufyan's control to know.
Which
the
knowledge?
Private correspondence between the Emperor of Rome and friends.
It's not beyond this.
The fact that there's a question mark about whether Abu Sufyan is a liar in the story. But
then he could be truthful.
The fact that the entire elites of the Roman world, according to this story, go through a dramatic experience, and we find no corroborating evidence to it at all. None from the 7th century. The fact that what we do know about Heraclius is that he was a deeply religious man who fought a religious war to retrieve a religious icon and recapture the holy city of Jerusalem. All point to us as knowing or of having certainty, a high degree of certainty, that this hadith is a fabrication.
Okay, just to push back. Now, when it comes to, again, like Abu Sufyan and his integrity, as we've said, we've not proven either way, myself or yourself, that Abu Sufyan received the knowledge, the information, the news of his daughter, his son-in-law, apostatizing. When it comes to the corroborating evidence, there could be one witness, like for example this gentleman here witnesses our conversation. Only him witnesses our conversation. And then years and years later, 1,000 years later, it said that Bob and Kyron, they had a discussion about such and such a thing. And then for somebody to turn around and say, well, but no, there was no other people that said it.
To be clear, it's the entire elites of the Roman Empire that are invited to this meeting.
Okay, let's just say there's a group of people here, a group of people.
All of
Speaker's Corner, Speaker's Corner, we're here listening to our conversation. Just because the accounts of majority of the people don't survive history, it does not mean that because only one of them survived, that because the others didn't, that his one is not reliable. We can't depend upon it.
Let me ask you this question. What do you...
But do you see that point I just made?
I see the point that you're making, but your argument, I think, is unreasonable.
Why is it unreasonable?
It's unreasonable because this is the elites of the Rome. I've stated why I think it's unreasonable. The evidence is late. The evidence is singular. The evidence itself contains discrepancies that immediately alert someone to its biases. It's a point that I didn't mention before.
Yeah.
It's in the context of a war against the Byzantines, in which Muslims occupied Christian land, the Byzantine land, and Byzantine populations were around. So this suits the context of being propaganda to discourage those native populations. It suits the idea of it being propaganda to discourage.
What biases do you find within there? Do you feel makes it out to be propaganda to try and?
So within the story, the problems within the story. It's trying to convince me that a deeply religious man asked a couple of questions and suddenly decided that he wanted to become Muslim.
But we already addressed that.
Bearing in mind how the Byzantine court worked, the Byzantine emperor would have known that if he had suggested, because I don't know if you know anything about the Byzantine emperor. Remember when I read from Encyclopedia Britannica?
Right.
Heraclius actually deposed Emperor Phocas. Do you remember I read that? The reality is that Roman emperors were always finding excuses to topple one another. The main reason for toppling someone was military failure, right? But in this time, bearing in mind that it is on the back of the fact that Christians have fought these schismatic battles against heretics, from Arius to Nestorius and so on, the idea that the emperor would have endangered his own position by saying to the entire elites of the Roman Empire, let's change our religion. It doesn't smack true of history, because an emperor would have placed his own position in danger by doing that, and he would have been toppled as an emperor.
I mean, okay, perhaps he would be toppled if he was to say such a thing or propose such a thing to his his council or whatever, whoever it was around him. But when you see, like for example, the companions of the Prophet Muhammad before they were Muslim, right? They had certain positions. You have Mus'ab bin Umair. He was a prominent. He was a very wealthy individual at the time, and when he accepted Islam, he lost that. He lost his mother withdrew her support. The Muslims, they lost a lot. And when it comes to the faith of an individual, and you even see this in this day and age, how many Muslim people become Muslim and they get kicked out of their houses. A Sikh, I know somebody who's a Sikh, became Muslim, was kicked out of his house.
It's like the Christians that get abused in. I know a sister who became a Christian up north in north of England. She is, her parents have turned around and said to her, "Plus you've left Islam, you have to leave the home."
Look,
and she's been a beautiful daughter to her parents.
But look, my argument is not about people, like I'm not basically trying to say Christians are bad because they kick Muslims out. People, when they become Muslim, they leave Christianity and they become Muslim, they kick them out of the house. That's not the point I'm making. What I'm saying is that when people accept a faith, like when they accept Islam, you'll see these individuals being told to leave the house, being stripped of position, whatever it is that happens, but they stick firm to their religion still. They're because of their faith. They are willing to endure.
Right, now I'm going to prove to you that
they're willing.
To your
let me
finish.
Let me finish.
Okay,
they're willing to endure. They're willing to endure anything that their family wants to throw at them. They're willing to endure it. So what I'm saying is, when it comes to Heraclius, because you're saying about him being toppled, they would basically because he's an emperor, it would be beyond him doing such a thing because he would lose his position. It's not impossible. When faith settles in the heart of somebody, they may be willing to lose their life, their family, and
so I've heard your argument.
Heraclius and Abu
Sufyan. So now let me show you. Now let me show you why that argument doesn't work even according to this text. Because as the brother just beat me to the punch. Are we still recording? Yeah. Drop your gloves. Right. Listen to what the Ur story says about Heraclius, to show that he's not the kind of person you've just described to defend the point against the point I made. Because I made the point, if Heraclius really did this, he would have endangered his own position. And you said, well, some people care more about truth than their own position. Right?
Do you not agree with that?
Right? No, I do agree with that. Look, that Christians did that.
Right.
But so here I'm going to show you from your own story. That description of Heraclius, because it goes on to say that when he realized the hatred towards Islam, and when he lost the hope of them embracing Islam, he only began Babylonians. He said, what already said was just to test the strength of your conviction, and I have seen it. The people prostrated before me and became pleased with him. So in other words, according to this story, he lied his face off to defend his own position.
Right.
Because he recognized the people weren't with him, and so he lied his face off and said, oh, no, I didn't mean it, I was just testing you. To protect his own position. So according to this story, he's a man that would rather keep his position than follow the truth. So your argument doesn't work.
Okay. No, I see your point. I get your point.
Now, that means according to your story, this Heraclius was a man of weak heart. But the point is, all of history contradicts that characterization. Heraclius was a warrior who led his armies into battle on the first Christian crusade against Persian Zoroastrians.
Right. Okay.
He reclaimed Jerusalem. He reclaimed the Holy Cross. He wore penitential clothes.
We've gone through that.
My point is,
respectfully,
my point is the characterization of Heraclius here does not match what we know about Heraclius from the 7th century.
Now, just to respond to that, I'm not saying that what's recorded historically about, like, you know, where you said he's gone on with to Constantinople and things he's done for the sake of the religion. I'm not saying he did
Jerusalem.
Whatever he did, I'm not saying that's not historically correct. And when it comes to going back to the narration, because you're saying that it's essentially showing that he's a coward because of him saying, okay, accept Islam. And then when he saw their reaction, oh, actually, yeah, I'm only joking, or whatever it is he said, don't listen to what I'm saying. I was just, testing your resilience in your faith. Now, it's possible that you have an individual that is willing to go on a mission, like go to war for his religion, to go and try and conquer lands so that his religion can be implemented there. However, that same person, that same individual who's willing to go out there and fight by the sword and die by the sword, it's possible that such a person, even though he's willing to die on the battlefield, he's scared of being in prison. He's scared of being tortured.
He would have been killed.
Right. Now,
he just would have been executed.
So
that's what happened to all the emperors before him.
Right. So going out to war, I mean, he doesn't know. Okay, yes, there's a precedent. You're right. There could have been a precedent of execution for somebody who renounced their religion, for example. It's
more like assassination.
Right. He could have been beheaded, whatever it may be. But he, in that moment of time, he doesn't know the consequences of him. Like, yes, he knows previously this has happened, but he doesn't know whether they're going to take him away, whether they're going to stone him to death, whether they're going to do whatever, torture him, tie him up. So in that moment of time, and also bear in mind as well, like when people go out to war, the king, obviously, he gets more protection. He's afforded more protection than the regular guys. So he may be more confident when going out to fight than in a position where it's just him, all eyes on him. If he renounces his religion,
Heraclius went into battle. He was no coward.
No, I'm not saying that.
The historical Heraclius was a man who led armies, and he fought in battles.
But what I'm saying is this:
drew his sword and he fought.
But what
he's not what this characterization.
No, but what I'm saying is, look, Heraclius was the emperor, right? He goes out to war. He is the priority in the army. He's the priority. He's the most protected amongst all of them. Right. So when he goes out to fight in that situation there, he knows he is the most protected individual in the army.
Yes.
Right. Now in this position here, he knows he's not. If I renounce my religion, like many thoughts may be coming to him. Everybody here may turn on me.
But think about it, and you're right. If you renounced your religion here today, and I invite you to do exactly that,
I invite you to do the same as well.
Embrace Christianity.
I invite you to embrace Islam.
By your own words, all the Muslims here would turn on you, and that's an unfortunate truth.
And that's something that may happen to you as well. If you became Christian, see how Bob the Builder is the worst person on the planet.
If I became a Muslim, I guarantee I would not live in fear of other Christians.
When it comes to Soko films, let's see how they dub you after if you became a Muslim.
They wouldn't.
I'm sure they would abuse you.
Slag me off, but I wouldn't live in fear that someone would come and stab me. Anyway, Karen, I think this has been a wonderful conversation.
Right.
I've really appreciated talking with you. Yeah, it's been very decent. It's been very honourable. A better finish than a start to my day.
Right.
I'm not going to re-summarise my argument. You've heard it. You've got it on your own camera.
Right.
Just go and re-look at this argument and think all the points through that I mentioned.
I respectfully request you also the points that I made. I respectfully request you also the points that I made to consider them as well.
I will. Because, and then let's come back and talk about it again.
Inshallah.
Can I give you a gift?
Sure you can. And I wanted to just say as well, because you made a point about, I'd live in fear if I renounced Islam because of being stabbed. You know, there's been a lot of killing from the other side as well. Like, look at New Zealand in 2019. More than 50 Muslims were killed by someone who was a Christian.
That's almost he was an environmentalist, actually. He wasn't a Christian, but he was an environmentalist. That's a Muslim lie told by Muslims to other Muslims. The terrorist attack in New Zealand was not by a Christian, it was by a racist who also happened to be an environmentalist.
Right.
So Muslims should stop lying about the attack in New Zealand. Wait, this is important.
Yeah, sure, go on.
50 people lost their lives in New Zealand. 50 innocent people died because of a terrorist attack against Muslims.
Right.
It does not honour their memory for Muslims to lie about that event.
Are you telling me?
Shame on any Muslim that does so. He was not a Christian.
Fine.
Stop lying.
We don't have to go on and on about that. But are you telling me that there is no Christians that have tortured, executed, and given Muslims a hard time in history?
Okay, I obviously can't say that. So my point to you, hey, bro, let's bring it to a close. We've went off the topic here. This is my little gift to you.
Right, thank you.
Have a read of it.
You've given me this one already last time.
I've given you that one. Yeah. Let me give you a different one then. There you go.
But I think it's not fair to bring up such a thing like that.
What?
When you're saying about I would fear being stabbed, when on both sides. There's been. I don't disagree with you that there are Muslims that have done.
How many Christians have tried to stab a Muslim in this park?
Did we have this? Sorry, in this park?
Yeah. What happened to Hajj and Tash?
Look, for one.
But look, bro, we're getting off the topic. We had a nice conversation.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
No, I appreciate your time.
And I want to talk to you again.
We spoke from the sun up to the sundown.
Yes. Yes. It was a really good conversation. Thank you so much.
Have you had your lunch?
No, not yet. Not yet.
Do you want to go to the cafe over there? Grab
something? I have got a lot of talks to do, but I will definitely let's meet up. Let's go grab a coffee somewhere on another day, or maybe even when I'm finished here today, me and you can go to the Marriott Hotel. I'll buy. It's on me.
Not even a quick muffin.
Nice coffee.
Not even a quick muffin.
They're going to rip you off for cheap stuff. They're going to rip you off for expensive stuff. I'd rather get ripped off over there. And I'll be paying, so you're not going to have to worry.